Hola, ¿qué tal? Por favor, si pueden ir sentándose nuevamente para retomar el quinto Foro Global de Energía y empezar con esta parte ya de la tarde del foro, en el que vamos a tener una exposición, 2 paneles, luego un receso, después nuevamente una exposición, otro panel y la clausura. Hola, hola, por favor, buenas tardes. Estamos ya retomando el quinto Foro Global de Energía. Les pedimos, por favor, si pueden ir regresando a sus asientos para poder comenzar con la primera exposición y recordarles también el hashtag para tuitear y participar en esta conversación online que ya vemos tiene varias publicaciones. Hashtag Foro Global de Energía. Sí, vamos entrando, por favor, si pueden ir entrando y sentándose para comenzar. Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Los invitamos a regresar ya aquí a la sala y sentarse para empezar con la primera exposición de esta tarde aquí en este quinto Foro Global de Energía. Gracias, bienvenidos nuevamente a este quinto Foro Global de Energía. Estamos dando una mirada a la cuenta, al hashtag Foro Global de Energía. Hay varios tweets ya publicados y le agradecemos al profesor Glashan, que ha estado siguiendo de cerca y también tuiteando varios puntos y afirmaciones que se han hecho aquí en esta conferencia. Muchas gracias, profesor, por ir relatando lo que aquí hemos estado comentando y por publicarlo en las redes. Nuevas tecnologías en el sector energía es el título de la cuarta conferencia de esta jornada. Su expositor viene de la República Digital de Estonia, un país a la vanguardia de la tecnología. Le damos la bienvenida a Mart Ots, presidente de la Energy Regulators Regional Association. Adelante, por favor.
Well, dear ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately I speak in English, so my Spanish is just a couple of words, but starting my presentation, at first I would like to thank Mr. Daniel Schmeller and also the Osinergmin, the Peruvian regulator, for organizing this event and also inviting me to speak here. We have, by the way, yesterday we have had a very good meeting with ICER, which is the International Organization of Different Energy Regulators, and now I'm very confident that we have made a good selection, and to do the World Energy Regulatory Forum in Lima by 2021 was the best decision. So I'm sure that you are going to organize a very good event. Well, but just to start concerning the new technologies in the energy sector, I'm Mart Ots, I'm the Director General of Estonian Competition Authority, and I'm also the President of ERRA. ERRA is Energy Regulators Regional Association, and we have different regulators among the globe. Of course, the most of our members are from Europe and from Asia, but I'm very glad that Peru is also our associated member. Yes, you are the first from America, so this was very, very important step that we have a member from America. But concerning Estonia is a small European country. We have only 1.4 million inhabitants, and we are located in the northern part of Europe. If you know Finland, if you know where Santa Claus is coming from, then we are quite close to Santa Claus, and that's why our climate is also very different from Peruvian one. But just to start, I should say that there are crucial changes in the regulatory environment. And what is by my mind, that's rather important change in European Union is the electricity market liberalization process. And the process started already 25 years ago. And for example, if you are looking to the different parts in the globe, then perhaps European Union is very unique. And why we are unique? We would like to have electricity and natural gas with less and less regulation, which means that the main goal is to regulate the natural monopolies. Well, and for example, if you are speaking about power generation and supply, there should be free market, no tariff regulation, and this is the actual situation in a number of European member states. But again, since for power networks, there are strong natural monopolies, then of course there is a needed strong tariff regulation. What is also a rather new policy in European Union is that we would like to be carbon neutral by 2050. Of course, it's difficult forecast whether we will reach this goal or not, but what are the latest developments in Europe? And the latest trend is that we would like to be carbon neutral without any subsidies, which means that we believe in free market, and we believe that the reachment of 100% carbon neutrality could be without subsidies, which means that the renewable energy sources in principle should compete on the conditions of free market. And today we have learned a lot what's ongoing concerning the development of renewable energy sources. I will show you also a couple of pictures, but there is a very clear picture that renewable energy sources are going to be more cheap, and also the renewable energy sources could be competitive in the future. Well, and what else we believe? We believe that free competition is the best regulator, and we need the regulation only in the sectors where there is no competition, which means that we believe that in generation and supply of electricity there could be free competition, and the regulation should be done only for the network businesses. But since we are a multi-sectoral regulator in Estonia, and we are regulating different sectors, then we have a very good lesson learned from the telecom market. Of course, you are energy regulators here, but it's still sometimes good also to look what has been happened to the other markets. And what was the situation in telecom market? It's a good example. 15 to 20 years ago, there was a very strong tariff regulation, similar tariff regulation on power networks today. But what is the situation today? That the technology has changed a lot, and today there is competition among different operators. Then the network operators are combined with mobile service providers, and instead of so-called strong hand price regulation, in most of European countries or the countries of European Union, today is just a light hand ex post regulation. And what I could say is that the development of technology changing the regulatory environment, and the telecom sector could be a good example. Well, this is the Estonian case study, for example. Until year 2000, there was an exclusive right for providing of fixed line telecom services to an incumbent company, Estonian Telecom. But what was the challenging situation in my country? That there was no regulation for cable TV distribution lines. And what happens? It happens that there have been a number of different competing TV distribution lines operator. They build their connections to the houses and to the apartments. And since today, the signal is digital, and there is no sense which line you have, whether you have a telecom line or whether you have an old one TV distribution line. The signal is coming to the house. And that's why the competition situation is very good in my country. And for example, if you're living in an apartment or a single family house, then you can have a number of different connections. you can have 4G, 5G, which mean that no regulation is needed anymore. And there is a very good example is also from my staff or the staff of my regulatory organization. In 2000s, we have had some 40 people for economic regulation of telecom. Today, we have only 5. And there is a simple reason there is no need for economic regulation anymore because there is a strong competition among the telecom operators. And that's why, by my mind, it's always very important to define what is the level of competition between different branches. And it's clear that there are natural monopolies like power network, water supply, gas networks, in Nordic countries like Estonia, district heating networks, because we need a lot of heat, air navigation center, and so on. And again, we have free market, for example, in electricity and gas generation and supply. And my question is, will technology change this picture? Well, and for example, if you are going to look to the different type of monopolies, then I'm rather sure that water will remain as a natural monopoly. And the reason is that water supply is the oldest utility, oldest natural monopoly. If you are looking to the history, then is since ancient Rome. And the reason why the water supply will remain as a monopoly is that the technology is very simple. You just pump the water in and you get the supply to the customers. But again, for example, if you're looking to the power networks, then I should say that the power network is not the old one. The power networks have a little bit more than 100 years of history. But what is the issue is that the power network is very, or even the most complex infrastructure, and it's very complex technology. Well, and we have learned today a number of good examples that there are a lot of technological developments, that the investments to the solar panels, for example, are going to be cheaper and cheaper, and there is a good question. Do we need a comprehensive electricity network in the future? Or we just need strong individual supply? And for example, if you're looking to the other monopolies like natural gas, district heating in my region, then I think so that those networks perhaps will remain. And why they will remain is that the technology in those networks is rather simple. Well, what else will change our life are the subsidies on renewables and rapid change in technology. Well, in Europe, we have made a number of different subsidies to renewables, like feed-in tariff, exemption from balancing responsibility, priority dispatch, long-term power purchase contracts. And what I could say is that this is not always a success story. And there are a number of cases where the renewable energy sources have been just overcompensated, which means that they have received too high subsidies. And what is the lessons to learn is that the regulator must follow the actual trends of technology developments and be active on implementation of advanced models, and also follow the market signals on investment cost, generation price from renewable energy sources. I know that there have been many pictures today. From here you can also see that the prices for solar panels have been declined rapidly, and the trend is the same in the future. The same is also for wind energy. The prices will come down. And what is the lessons to learn is that the regulators shall follow those actual trends. Of course, for example, if I'm speaking from my regulatory association era, then there are different models. In some countries, the regulatory body is responsible for setting of subsidies. In a number of countries, the level of subsidies are set by the government. But here you can just see a good lesson learned in Estonia. We are a modern country. We have been successful, but this is a bad example. And this is a very clear example that we have overpaid to the renewables. Well, and the reason is that By 2007, we have introduced a feed-in tariff scheme. We have fixed the subsidy, and we have paid too much to the renewable energy sources. And for example, if you are looking, the results are nice from Estonia. If we started our, let's say, program by 2007, you can see that the share of renewables were very small in our energy portfolio. If you are looking to the result of 2018, you can see that the share of renewables have been increased significantly. But again, what is the problem? You can see from this chart what we are paying or how much our end customer is paying for the electricity. And from here you can see that 11% from the final bill of customer are subsidies. And for example, if you are looking that generation is something 51% from the end customer's tariff, that means that customers are paying too much for the generation. And the reason why they are paying too much is that the subsidies have been too high. By the way, if you are looking to this picture, what is specific in Estonia is that the generation in Estonia is on free market. We are not regulating the generation price, which means that each of customer can freely select the supplier, and the only element what we are regulating from the regulatory authority are the network tariffs, which means that this is perhaps a typical picture. Also, this could be very similar in the other European Union member states, and the picture is that the regulator today is regulating only 1/3 of the total electricity cost. And generation cost, supply are formed on the free market conditions, and the rest, energy tax and subsidy, in Estonian case, are set by the law, which means that the regulator has very little influence to these components. Here you can see what is the regulation of power networks in the what is previous framework, what is the future, and for example, if you are looking to the classical picture, then the classical picture is that electricity is generated by the larger power plants, it's transmitted and distributed by the network, and there is an end customer. But for example, if you are looking to the picture on right side, then you can see that the situation can be changed in the future, or it's already changing today, and the customers are more and more active in generating of electricity. Well, and so there is a question, and I have no answer to this. And the question is that, for example, what is the regulation of networks in the future? Today, currently, there is so-called classical tariff regulation for power networks. There is strong tariff regulation. You know very well that we are setting the regulatory asset base, we are calculating the weighted average cost of capital, we are defining the efficiency, we are setting, let's say, regulatory periods and so on, but there is a question, what will happen with the distribution system operators in the future? Will the distribution system operators remain like they are today, natural monopolies, or would it be another example that customer choice, whether to connect to the distribution system operator or to be self-sufficient using energy storage? And this is a question. And for example, I have no answer. The future will demonstrate whether the distribution system operator will remain a monopoly, or there might be like a story in telecom, that there will be a competition in the future. And the competition between, let's say, solar panels plus energy storage, or another option is to be connected to the distribution line. Well, but what is the lesson learned is that the regulator shall be flexible and to follow the actual trend on the market. And of course, this is a case study from Nordic region. We need a lot of heat. It can be very cold in the winter time. In Estonia, it can be minus 25 degrees in the winter, and of course, we need a lot of heat. But what is the case study is that some 5 to 10 years ago, we have had a very strong competition among the different heating sources. but today the situation is changed. For example, in Estonia and also in a number of other countries in the region, and the best way to be carbon neutral is to use district heating. And the district heating is a system where heat is centrally generated and distributed by the pipes. And why it's efficient from carbon neutrality point of view is that you can use biomass. And biomass is a renewable energy source. And for example, the number of cities in my countries have very ambitious targets to be carbon neutral. And what they did, they set the district heating as a single heating source in Estonia, which means that if 5 to 10 years ago we have been looking that there is competition, today there is no competition anymore. And for example, the district heating pipes are in the same monopoly situation like today the gas networks or the power networks, which means that the lesson learned is that the regulators shall be flexible and to follow the actual trend on the market. Well, what else is important is the role of digitalization and regulation. We are going to be more digital, and of course we need more digital information, for example, for balance forecast, for load forecast, also to have smart homes, and so on. And for example, this is a quite good case from Estonia concerning the smart metering. In Europe, we have had a lot of discussions concerning the smart metering, and we have had also a lot of discussion within our organization ERA. And sometimes I have the feeling that the regulators are a little bit too hesitant to support the introduction of smart metering. But what we did in Estonia it was made a political decision to have 100% smart metering, and today, for example, each customer, inclusive the household customer, has an online meter, which means that 100% from electricity generated, supplied, consumed in Estonia is today online. And the same is going to be also with natural gas. The same trend is ongoing for district heating and water, and by my mind, this is a quite important trend to be digitalized. And here you just can see that what is the situation of different EU member states. Some of the European member states have been more active, some of the member states have been less active. Here are just some case studies from different European Union member states, what is the status of smart metering in different member states and whether there are, for example, central data hubs or not. And also, a new trend is the cybersecurity and data protection. Those are important elements like the addressing cybersecurity and data protection is crucial in the digitalization of energy sector. Digitalized energy sector is exposed to new kinds of threats, that's clear. Cyber attacks that might jeopardize the security of energy supply. There are risks, and the risk must be analyzed and suitable measures prepared. It's important to update software and hardware, consider additional measures, monitor and follow relevant standards, and also collaboration and communication framework for crises and incidents. Well, and some, as far as I remember, 5 years ago, the cybersecurity was not discussed among of the regulators, but today the cybersecurity is a very hot and important topic among the regulators, and it's discussed just on each of the meetings. And of course, there are very different cybersecurity and data protection regulation. There are different solutions among of EU member states and ERA members. There are, for example, in EU, there are data protection specific rules, general supervisory body in each of member states, and if you are speaking about the cybersecurity of energy networks, there are different approaches in cybersecurity, either central supervisory body or energy regulator. And there are different models in EU and also different models among the ERA countries. Estonia, for example, the supervisory authority for both cybersecurity and data protections, and which means that in my country, the energy regulator is not responsible for those issues. We have special authority for cybersecurity, and we have a special authority for data protection. And those authorities are responsible. But what is the regulator's role is that we have to evaluate and we have to control the reasonability of investments and operational costs, which mean that in my country I'm not responsible whether the cybersecurity is in the place. But for example, if we will get application to justify the tariffs, then of course we have to be careful, and we shall carefully analyze what are the investment costs and what are the additional operational costs to the cybersecurity. And just to finalize my presentation, I should say that we as regulators, we shall be responsible to the customers. And our client is customer, which means that even there are new trends in technology, even there are new trends in the regulation, never forget that we are responsible to the customers. And for example, this is a nice picture. This was presented in ERA conference in Riga just 3 weeks ago. And here you can see that, for example, the electricity is relatively cheap today in Europe, which means that there are some good examples how big is the percentage of electricity in different percentage of GDP in different European member states, and those are small numbers. So my final word is that we as regulators shall always remember that we are serving the customers, and we should be careful to try to keep this nice picture and to keep the price of electricity on reasonable level. So thank you for your attention. If you need more information, there are the web pages of my organization, of Estonian Competition Authority, and also for ERA. Thank you.
Is not my style.